These are the 7 levels of Witchers. Level 1, The Taken. You don't apply to be a Witcher. There's no academy brochure, no entrance exam, no career day presentation. You get taken. Usually, kids who were orphaned by wars, plagues, or monster attacks are perfect candidates. Some are abandoned by parents who can't feed them. A few are even sold. Yeah, it's dark. Welcome to the Witcher universe, where the origin story starts at childhood trauma and somehow gets worse from there. Some collect children through something called the Law of Surprise, basically a magical IOU that lets you claim something you have but don't know about yet. Sometimes that means a kid. A traveler gets saved by a Witcher who invokes the Law of Surprise as payment. The traveler goes home to his once pregnant wife, and boom, years later, a Witcher shows up to collect their child. It's like a bad subscription service you forgot to cancel. Here's the thing, the Witchers never tell during recruitment. Most of these kids won't survive. Maybe 3 out of 10 children make it through training. Fewer than that survive the mutations, and the ones who do, they're outcasts, and will spend the rest of their unnaturally long lives killing monsters for coin while villagers spit at them. But why kids? Why not just train adults? After trial and error, some experimental mages found that adult bodies can't handle what comes next. Their physiology is too developed, too rigid. The mutations that turn a human into a Witcher require a young, adaptable body. Try to mutate an adult, and their organs shut down, their brain hemorrhages, and they die screaming. So yeah, kids it is. At this level, these children aren't Witchers yet. They're just the Taken, ripped from everything they knew and thrown into a life they never chose. But the ones who survive this stage, they're about to learn what real suffering looks like. Level 2, The Trained. Welcome to Kaer Morhen, where childhood goes to die. Here, the Taken become the Trained. And this is where the brutal conditioning begins. I'm talking years of non-stop physical and mental torture, disguised as education, sword drills until your hands bleed, running obstacle courses in freezing temperatures, dodging swinging pendulums that will crack your skull if you're too slow, climbing cliffs without ropes, and if you fall, well, there's a reason the survival rate is so low. But it's not just about being tough. Witchers need to be smart. The kids study monster anatomy. Things like where to strike a drowner, how to kill a griffin, why you never fight a leshen in its own forest. They learn tracking, reading claw marks, identifying monster dropping, following blood trails. They study alchemy basics, so they don't poison themselves later. They learn how to negotiate contracts, how to spot a curse, and how to tell when a villager is lying about what killed their livestock. Lambert, one of the younger Wolf School Witchers, hated every second of this. He talks about it constantly in the games. The freezing cold, the ruthless instructors, the complete lack of compassion. Vesemir, the oldest living Witcher, was one of those instructors, and even he admits the training was designed to break you. If you couldn't handle the training, you definitely couldn't handle what came next. The Trained are lethal compared to normal humans. Give a level 2 Witcher a sword and they'll cut through bandits like butter. But against actual monsters, they get torn apart. They're still human, still limited by human reflexes, human strength, human endurance. That's about to change in the most horrifying way possible. So far, I've covered kids getting kidnapped and tortured for years, but that's just the warm-up. Because now we get to the part where they stop being human entirely. Level 3, The Mutated. The trial of the grasses, the moment where most children die, and the ones who survive become something else. Here's what happens. The Trained are force-fed alchemical mutagens, complex cocktails of monster blood, rare herbs, and magical compounds that literally rewrite their DNA. Their bodies convulse. They vomit. They scream. Some have seizures so violent they break their own bones. About 3 out of 10 survive. The ones who don't, their bodies reject the mutations and they die in agony, bleeding from every orifice. The survivors, they wake up. Different. First thing you notice, the eyes. Witchers develop cat-like pupils that let them see in complete darkness. This isn't my eyes adjusted to the dark vision. This is I can hunt you in a pitch-black cave at midnight vision. In the games, this is why you can activate Cat Potion and suddenly everything's visible. That's not magic. That's their mutated biology. Their reflexes become superhuman. A normal human takes about 250 milliseconds to react to something they see. A Witcher? Cut that in half. They can dodge arrows mid-flight and parry sword strikes that they shouldn't physically be able to see coming. This is why Geralt can fight multiple opponents at once. His body moves faster than normal humans can think. Their metabolism changes completely. They can eat rotten food without getting sick. Diseases that would kill a normal person barely affect them. They heal faster, not Wolverine-level regeneration, but a stab wound that would take weeks to heal takes days. Broken bones mend in half the time. They also become sterile, every single one. The mutations destroy reproductive capability as a side effect. Some Witchers, like Geralt, clearly have complicated feelings about this. Others don't care, but it's permanent, and it's one of the reasons Witchers are going extinct. They can't replace themselves without mutating another child. Oh, and they stop aging normally. Witchers can live for centuries. Vesemir is over 300 years old in the game. Geralt's pushing 100 and looks like he's in his 30s. The mutations don't make them immortal, but they sure as hell make them durable. At this point, the mutated are no longer human. They're stronger, faster, and tougher than any normal person, but they're still not fully weaponized. For that, they need one more push. Level 4, the Enhanced. Now that the mutations are complete, the mutated can finally access the Witcher toolkit without their organs exploding. And let me tell you, this toolkit is insane. First up, Signs. These are simple magic spells that Witchers cast using hand gestures. Normal humans can't use them because they don't have the mutations necessary to channel magical energy. But Witchers, they've got 5 combat spells that make every fight easier. Igni sets things on fire. Ard blasts enemies off cliffs. Quen is your I messed up shield that absorbs one hit. Erden traps ghosts that phase through reality. And Axii is straight up mind control for when you'd rather talk than stab. If you've ever spammed Quen through an entire boss fight, you know exactly how broken these are. That's not strategy, that's a crutch, and it works beautifully. But Signs are just the appetizer. The real power move, Witcher Potion. Remember how I said these concoctions are toxic to normal humans? Yeah, one sip stops your heart. But Witchers can chug them mid-combat and turn into unkillable murder machines. Swallow heals you faster than monsters can damage you. Thunderbolt makes your sword hit like a truck. Tawny Owl means you never run out of stamina for dodging. And then there's Blizzard, the most broken potion in the entire game. It slows down time whenever you kill an enemy, letting you chain executions in slow motion like you're in the Matrix. Stack that with Thunderbolt and you're not fighting anymore. You're performing an execution montage. It's absurd, it's unfair, and if you've ever used it on a monster nest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Then you've got oils and bombs for extra flavor. Coat your sword with the right oil and you deal massive bonus damage to specific monster types. Necrophage oil for ghouls, Spectre oil for wraiths, Hanged Man's venom for when the contract requires killing humans. Yeah, Witchers absolutely murder people when the money's right. Bombs are self-explanatory. Simone blinds, Grape Shot shreds, Northern Wind freezes enemies solid. Basically, grenades with fantasy name. And if you really want to break the game, there's Decoctions, long-lasting super potions made from rare monster parts. Echidna heals you whenever you spend stamina. Ekamara turns you into a lifesteal vampire. Grave Hag gives massive damage at full health. These things last for 30 plus minutes and stack with regular potions, turning you into an unstoppable raid boss. The Enhanced are walking weapons labs. They've got answers to every situation. Crowd control, healing, burst damage, defense, you name it. A level 4. Witcher with proper prep can solo contracts that would require a small army of normal soldiers. But having the tools isn't the same as knowing when and how to use them. That's where experience comes in. Let's talk about the Witchers who figured that part out. Level 5. The Hunters. This is where theory meets reality. The Enhanced have all the tools, but the Hunters know how to use them. Being a hunter isn't about raw power. It's about preparation, tactics, and knowledge. It's the difference between button mashing through a boss fight and actually understanding the game mechanic. And in the Witcher world, understanding mechanics means you live. Not understanding them means you end up as monster food. Let's break down what separates the Hunters from everyone below them. First, tracking and investigation. A hunter can look at claw marks on a tree and tell you what monster made them, how long ago, and where it's headed. They can examine bite wounds on a corpse and identify the creature responsible. They know that if livestock is getting killed but not eaten, you're dealing with a cursed monster, not a hungry one. If people are disappearing near water at night, drowners, or a water hag. Entire villages going silent, Leshen territory. In the games, this is represented by Witcher senses, that detective vision mode where everything glows. Geralt examines scratches, follows scent trails, and pieces together what happened. That's not a game mechanic. That's literally what Witchers do. They're monster detectives. Second, preparation kills. A hunter never fights a monster without knowing its weaknesses first. Fighting a wraith, you need Spectre oil on your blade and Yrden to trap it when it phases out. Fighting a Leshen, burn its totems first or it'll just keep regenerating. Fighting a fiend, bring salmon bombs to counter its hypnotic abilities. Going in blind gets you killed. In the books, Geralt spends hours before major contracts reading bestiaries, brewing potions, and coating his blades. The games reward this too. If you prepare correctly, boss fights become manageable. If you don't, you get destroyed. Third, adaptability. Monsters don't fight fair, and contracts never go exactly as planned. Maybe the contract said it was a pack of neckers, but you show up and it's actually a nest of Endrigus. Maybe you're hunting a vampire, and it turns out to be a Catachan, not a Garcane, so your entire strategy is wrong. Hunters adapt on the fly. They read the battlefield, adjust tactics mid-fight, and survive situations that would kill less experienced witchers. Fourth, contract negotiation. Yeah, this matters. A hunter knows how to price their work, how to spot when a client is lying, and when to walk away from a bad deal. Witchers aren't heroes. They're professionals. They need to eat, maintain their gear, and buy alchemical supplies. Getting underpaid means you can't afford the next contract's preparation costs. Getting screwed over too many times means you starve. In the games, Geralt constantly negotiates contracts. Sometimes he takes less money because the village is poor. Sometimes he demands triple because the client lied. Sometimes he walks away entirely because the contract is a setup. That's hunter-level judgment. The hunters are field-tested. They've fought dozens of monster types, survived ambushes, adapted to unexpected situations, and learned from their mistakes. They're not experimenting anymore. They're executing. Every contract is a professional operation. Research, preparation, execution, payment. But even with all that experience, there's still a gap between good witchers and great ones. Let's talk about the veterans who've been doing this for decades. Level 6, the Masters. The Masters are the witchers who've survived long enough to make it look easy. I'm talking decades, sometimes centuries, of monster hunting experience. These are witchers who've seen everything, fought everything, and learned lessons that can't be taught in training. Vesemir is the perfect example. He's over 300 years old, trained multiple generations of witchers, and has more field experience than everyone at Kaer Morhen combined. Here's what separates masters from hunters. Efficiency. A hunter prepares for a contract carefully, studying the monster and bringing the right tools. A master looks at the contract and already knows the entire playbook from memory. They've fought this exact monster type 20 times before. They know its attack pattern, its tells, its weaknesses. They don't need to consult a bestiary. They wrote the damn bestiary. Let's talk about risk assessment. Hunters take contracts they can handle. Masters take contracts and immediately spot the variables everyone else missed. Is the monster acting unusual? That means something bigger is controlling it. Are villagers lying about what they saw? That means there's something else going on. Is the reward suspiciously high? That means the contract is way more dangerous than advertised, or it's a trap. Letho of Gulet, the Viper School Witcher from Witcher 2, is a perfect example of master-level thinking. He's not just strong, he's calculating. He plans entire political assassination, disguised as monster contracts. He manipulates kings, mages, an entire kingdom, while everyone thinks he's just a big dumb brute. That's what decades of experience gets you. The ability to see 10 steps ahead. Masters also understand monster psychology in ways hunters don't. A hunter knows a werewolf is dangerous during a full moon. A master knows why the werewolf is hunting, what trauma triggered the curse, and how to potentially lift it without killing anyone. They see monsters as creatures with motivations, not just targets. Sometimes that means finding non-lethal solutions. Sometimes that means understanding that the real monster is the human who created the situation in the first place. There's an emotional component too. Masters have watched friends die. They've seen kingdoms rise and fall. They've witnessed entire Witcher schools get destroyed by mobs. They carry trauma that would break normal people, but they keep going because it's the only life they know. Vesemir lost everyone at Kaer Morhen when the mob attacked. He's the last of his generation, and yet he still trains the next generation, still takes contracts, still fights. That's not just skill, that's resilience. If you're a master, you're in the top 5% of all witchers who've ever lived. You've survived longer than almost anyone. You've refined your craft to an art form. You're not just good at killing monsters. You're good at surviving a world that wants you dead. But even among masters, there are outliers, witchers so exceptional that they transcend the normal limits of what's possible. We've gone from orphans to masters who've survived centuries. But there's one more level. The witchers who don't just survive, they change history. Level 7, the legends. This is the peak, the absolute ceiling of what a witcher can be. Legends aren't just skilled. They're anomalies, mutations within mutation, witchers who broke the rules of what should be possible and somehow survived. Let's start with the most famous example, Geralt of Rivia. Geralt didn't just survive the Trial of the Grasses, he survived additional experimental mutations that killed every other kid they tried them on. His mother, Vicenna, was a sorceress who gave him up to the Witchers. The mages at Kaer Morhen saw potential in him and decided to push further. They subjected him to extra mutagens, more trials, more alchemical torture. Most kids die during the standard mutation. Geralt survived mutations that were supposed to be impossible. The result? His hair turned white from the trauma, but he also gained abilities other witchers don't have. His toxicity tolerance is insane. He can drink multiple decoctions simultaneously while other witchers would die from the poison. In Witcher 3, you can stack 3 decoctions plus 2 potions and Geralt just handles it. That's not normal, even for witchers. He also has enhanced emotional control. One of his extra mutations was supposed to remove fear entirely, making him the perfect emotionless killer. It didn't quite work out like that. Geralt clearly has emotions and attachments, but he does have an unusual ability to stay calm in situations that would terrify other witchers. Fighting a Leshen, regular Tuesday, facing down the Wild Hunt, just another contract. But here's what really makes Geralt a legend: adaptability and luck. He's survived situations that should have killed him dozens of times over. Fought vampires, dragons, demons, interdimensional elves. He's died and been resurrected. He's fought in wars, survived political assassinations, and somehow always ends up at the center of world-changing events. That's not just skill, that's plot armor. And in-universe, it's recognized as Geralt being absurdly, impossibly lucky. Then there's Letho of Gulet, who I mentioned earlier. Letho's mutations gave him massive physical size and strength that other witchers don't have. He's built like a tank, which shouldn't be possible. A lot of witchers are lean and agile, but Letho's mutagens went differently, and he became a heavyweight brawler who can crush skulls with his bare hands while still maintaining witcher speed and reflexes. He's also smart enough to orchestrate the assassination of multiple kings and manipulate an entire continent's politics. That combination of brute strength and tactical genius, legendary. Finally, we have Ciri. She's not technically a witcher because she never went through the mutations, but she trained as one and has something arguably more powerful: Elder Blood. She can teleport across dimensions, manipulate time and space, and has magical potential that dwarfs anything witchers can do. In Witcher 3, she's literally the most powerful being on the continent. The Wild Hunt, an interdimensional army of spectral warriors, is hunting her specifically because her power is that rare and dangerous. Legends reshape the world around them. They don't just take contracts, they end wars. They don't just kill monsters, they hunt threats that endanger entire civilization. They're the witchers that songs are written about, the ones that people will remember centuries after they're dead. Here's the thing about reaching level 7. You can't train for it. You can't study your way into being a legend. It's a combination of genetics, luck, extraordinary circumstances, and refusing to die when you absolutely should have. Most witchers never reach this level. Most die at level 5 or 6, killed by a contract that went wrong. The ones who do reach it, they're myths walking among mortals. But here's the twist. There will never be more witchers. The mutagen formulas are gone, the labs are run down, and the only people who knew how to make new witchers died with Vesemir and the other masters. So every time a witcher gets stabbed, poisoned, eaten, or maybe even slips in the bathtub, the population drops. There are no replacements, no new kids in training, which leaves one last question. What happens when the last witcher dies? Maybe they become something bigger than mutants. They become stories. They become legends. They become the thing kids pretend to be with wooden swords in the courtyard. Which is funny, because that's exactly where witchers start. And maybe that's the real level 8, when witchers stop being real and start being myth, unless someone figured out how to start again. Because rumors say there's a new witcher school, somewhere out there on the continent. Not wolf or cat or bear, but lynx. And if that rumor turns out to be true, maybe the story isn't ending. Maybe it's just getting a sequel. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the 10 deadliest witchers, click the video on screen now.